Yo, 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 what is up, my peeps? It's your main man, Kop here. We are back with another reaction video to the deep dive for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. So let's get started. I know Metro's busy. He's got stuff that he's got to go do, so let's not even... We're going to join this call with Metro. Yo, buddy, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, buddy. Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. So what I actually have on MMO Champion, they have a picture of every single slide. So I'm going to put that on the screen, and we can go through every single thing that was said, more specific than last night, where we were kind of just jumping all around. I think this would be a good way to do it. What do you think?
I think that's great. I think that's absolutely a great way to do it. And then we can look at any questions we have in our streams if we have time.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so we started by talking about an overarching plan for the Covenants and how it works, you know, like the actual Covenant system and some of the abilities. So I feel like everybody knows about the 4 Covenants by now. We shouldn't really need to talk too much about that. They showed a little bit of the Covenant Sanctums, nothing crazy, but I would definitely like to start with the abilities because some really interesting stuff there. So the first thing they showed was this Night Fae Covenant ability that turned you into a fox. What did you think about that ability?
I thought that was awesome. I thought, geez, that's going to be Metro. He needs the movement speed.
Well, yeah, so they all 4 of them coincidentally seem to be in some way related to movement. So I'm very interested in why that's the case. But the Covenant, the Night Fae one especially, was probably the most interesting to me because it turns you into a Spirit Fox, which obviously a lot of people are going to like just because of the visuals, and we'll talk more about the visuals in a second. But the main thing there is that it causes enemies to ignore you for 10 seconds. So when I hear this, so they're just nerfing rogues, right? Like, I mean, Shroud is no longer needed. You can do 10 seconds worth of skips with this ability, assuming, right? I mean, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but they all seem to be that way. Did you put 2 and 2 together there?
Yeah, it seemed like that they were like, okay, we don't want people to have to take a rogue for Mythic Plus anymore. We want to give them a way to do that for every class. So
yeah, that's what it seemed like to me. And I was like, wow, that one's going to be overpowered. Everyone's going to have to take that. And then they actually show some of these visuals, which is really cool. A lot of people were very excited about that, I'm sure, in the crowd, that you could actually, I assume this is going to be related to the soul binding concept, but you could basically choose which animal you become, which I know there's a lot of anthropomorphic fans out there. So it's cool. I mean, the butterfly looks awesome. I didn't see some of these models before that. That stag obviously looks great too. But hey, that's pretty cool, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think I even said it in your Discord. Metro Glimmerfly confirmed.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty looking thing, right? So we'll see which you know, how that ends up going. I don't know if I'll be taking that Covenant, but Then they show what I think to be is probably the most interesting slide of the whole panel here, is about the other Covenant abilities. So we're going to read every single one of them. Okay, these are the, so in case anybody's not aware, the new Covenant system, you get one class-specific ability and one general ability. And here's the 4 general abilities. So the Kyrian one is actually playable on the show floor. Maybe people have seen it already. But you dissolve into pure anima, increasing your movement speed to 300%, slowing your falling speed, and propelling you forward for 4 seconds. So it's kind of like maybe like the Demon Hunter dash or glide ability. It seems like you'd be able to use that to jump over cliffs. It's a 2-minute CD, and it is a 1-second cast. Maybe that's placeholder. It seems a bit weird for a cast time for a propelling ability, but maybe not. We'll see. But again, it says greatly reduces the radius at which enemies will detect you. So, not quite as good as the other one, but still, it seems to be a theme here, huh?
Yeah, like something like that. Really, I don't know how well that would work as a skip in Mythic Plus. Not my area yet, but I seem to think that that's probably good for more like outdoor content rather than doing dungeon skips.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, that's basically what it is. It sounds like it's going to be great for very specific things like jumping over a gap or, making some kind of big play even in a raid fight, right, where you need to go really, really, really fast for a very short period of time. That's obviously the ideal situation.
Yeah.
And then the soul shape one we already talked about, but movement speed by 30%. That's not that big of a speed boost, but the main thing there is, of course, that from what I can tell, it causes the enemies to ignore you, which is different than greatly reduces the radius at which enemies will detect you. It's a big difference, right?
Absolutely, because then you can skip any bit of trash that you want to skip in a dungeon or a raid or what have you.
Yeah,
You can just skip
absolutely.
things.
And then there's Transcend the Flesh. That's the Necrolord one. And this one's probably the one that seems like it might end up being the most crazy. Separates your soul from your body for 20 seconds. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Your soul is invisible and untargetable, though your body remains vulnerable. This effect will end early if you move further than 60 yards from your body. And when Transcend the Flesh ends or is canceled, your body rejoins your soul. So basically, it allows you to go anywhere in the game 60 yards from your body. So you think, not really that great in many situations. But at the same time, you have to assume that it would automatically put your body back. So if you're going 60 yards and that momentum of you going those 60 yards propels you 61 yards, that's still good. Like that might actually be enough to make a big skip, or more so, it might actually be enough to jump off some large structure and not die to fall damage. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, I was thinking that exact same thing because he said it would confuse the enemy that was fighting your body while you were moving away, so that they wouldn't know where you are. Like you could go and hide around a pillar. So many
Yeah.
good things for positioning mobs that way.
Yeah, because it's actually like the body itself stays, and he even said that it will continue to fight. So, using it in combat is one thing, but I'm thinking about even more so using it out of combat to, to really, I don't know. This is a really, really cool idea. It reminds me a little bit of the Void Elves racial, which is
Absolutely.
good, but I think this is just better. It's a 3-minute CD though, so we'll see how it goes. And then the Venthyr is the vampire guys. Door of Shadow. This one is, from what I can tell, literally just teleportation. Did you see
Yeah.
this one?
I did, and that one is the other one that reminds me of Void Elves. Is you're literally just moving from one to another, just moving across. So
Yeah, it seems like it's just anywhere within 40 yards, 2-second cast, 2-minute CD, you just appear there. So it's just literally blink on steroids. That might actually be the one for DK because the other ones are nice. Like the movement speed is nice, but the ability to actually just get out without actually having to move could be a really big deal depending on how this cast time thing works.
yeah, the drawback I see is, and again, I've lately been thinking a lot about that Orca Zoa fight. Is how well can you position exactly that teleport? You know what I mean? Like if there's a specific spot you have to go to avoid a
Right.
mechanic, it might not be that as good as say a movement speed.
That's a great point, actually. So if you compare Unburdened to Door of Shadows, you might see Unburdened being valuable for jumping across a cliff, like something that if you didn't get across, you would die. You could make that jump across. But with Door of Shadows, can you just do the same thing? Can you teleport across the cliff? A lot of times with you play a warrior, the heroic leap ability, you'll often know you can't usually make a jump across something that doesn't have pathing through it. So that might cause some problems as well. Well, I guess we'll find out more about how the
Absolutely.
terrain is going to be designed.
Yeah, terrain is going to be huge in all four of those. I think is going to make a huge difference in how they're used and how useful they are.
Yeah, so then they also showed some of the class abilities. Now, the list is on Wowhead. I thought they might talk about it more, but the fact that they didn't makes me think that we probably don't need to cover it too much. But it is interesting to point out these ones that they showed because there's 4 different ones for the mage one. It's whatever mage, it's good pick. But they're all basically just varying length CDs. You'll notice one's 30-second, one's 1.5, one's 45-second, one's 2. None of them are the same. I don't know if that's going to be the way for all the different specs, but you would think that you would think more so about which one is the biggest one for burst potential if you're playing Fire Mage, right? Like you're playing Fire Mage, it's all about burst. So you might want to line that up with a 2-minute CD instead of a 30-second CD. So I don't know. What'd you think about that potentially?
I think it's a way of balancing them so that they can balance the damage around how long the cooldown is. So at the end of the day, it's more of a cosmetic choice, right? You're going to wind up doing the same amount of damage over the same time frame, but you'll have different cooldowns. So you can customize when you're doing it a 2-minute burst, or when you need every 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, you're going to wind up doing the same damage with all 4. It's kind of how I saw it.
I mean, they all do completely different things, so I don't know if it's going to be the exact same damage, obviously. But like the one that's interesting to me the most in this example here is this Mirrors of Torment from Venthyr. Conjures 3 mirrors that rotate around the targeted enemy for 6 seconds. Whenever they cast an ability or a spell, they take 7,000 shadow damage and are rooted for 1.5 seconds. That's ridiculous. I mean, that might do 0 damage, or it might be like overpowered. So some of these are really unique, and they're probably going to get tuned and maybe even not be like they are now in the end game. But I don't know, man. There's some very unique ideas here, and this is only mage. I can only imagine what it might be like for other classes.
I said it yesterday. I think this whole expansion is going to be about choice, and this is going to be like an almost infinite amount of choices for everything.
It seems that way based on some of the other stuff we saw. So let's keep moving. So yeah, they talk about the Soulbind. We could talk a little bit about that. I definitely want to show the slide actually about the talent, because that was one thing that I was very interested in seeing. And they didn't show too much. Obviously, it's very early. You could tell they weren't even willing to show the options in between the two things they talked about, because it's pretty obvious that they don't have it ready. But it does look like... what do you think? Well, how would you describe this system?
Oh, the Covenant system? Like,
yeah, so I'm showing the talent tree that they showed on the screen right now.
It reminds me a lot of the legendary weapons in BFA and Legion. Sorry, is that you got those kind of paths that you're going down. You're choosing which way you want to go and how you want to customize your play style.
Yeah, when I saw these things, it made me think that these were things that you acquire and that you put into the thing. It's not like, when people think of talent trees, it's like you get the point and then the point's there on the page and you just pick which one you want. But what I see, these images, it makes it look like you pick them. Like there's these little iconography elements to it, like a lightning bolt and like a little shield looking thing. So it makes me think that is something that you picked from the world and put it into it. But they didn't really specify. So they didn't show this at all. They didn't really even bring it up. But he did, use words like choice and options. So we'll see how it goes, I guess.
So like a socket on your equipment that you pick, you decide, okay, I'm going to put this particular thing in this socket.
Yeah, and those things would come from the soul binding concept, quote unquote. Like you find this guy that you like being a part of. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe because like the imagery does show just the guy's name, Theotar. Yeah, I don't know. It might just be specific to him, and it's just this talent tree that you build towards the whole time. But I'm not sure. I don't know really.
I don't know. That could be, because that would definitely go towards the whole choice thing, and the fact that no matter what you're doing, you're building towards, your progression. So maybe.
Yeah, but so that's the talent tree thing. We talked about this a lot yesterday. Whether or not it's satisfactory to people, who knows? But I think the fact that they're at least trying something new here, and this much customization is being featured so heavily in the beginning talk of the expansion, it really is that's good news.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like I said, all about choice, and it's so good, so good.
Yeah, so he even talked about this in the next switching, specializing, and playing favorites, choosing the soulbind that best suits you, and you're able to switch soulbinds when strategy demands. He actually even explicitly said that you're going to be able to switch it just like a talent. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how that talent tree plays out. If it's like I said, where you customize the tree itself, or if the Soulbind dictates what the tree is, and then you just level up the tree. But either way, you are going to be able to change just like regular talents. So we basically went from BFA, where we could change essences plus our normal stuff like gear and talents, to now being potentially able to change like huge levels of customization and RPG progression. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
pretty nuts.
it's insane, and that makes me think, we can change. It makes me think it's more like a talent tree, just because you can decide by popping your book to decide which way you want to go in it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very excited to see which direction it goes. So then they also talk about some of the cosmetic stuff. They showed the plate set. That's exclusively plate, by the way. He said that pretty much word for word. So that means that these armors that I'm showing right now are only for plate, and there's eventually going to be cloth. I thought it might kind of be like heritage armor, where this like tree looking one that you're surrounded in bark. I thought that might just be for all people who are in that covenant. But if that's only for plate people, then I'm very interested in seeing what the other ones end up looking like.
Well, yeah, because you're then going to have 4 sets for each covenant, so you're going to have 16 different armor sets that you can choose from.
It's pretty cool, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of art, man. I have to say, the art team is just crushing it this expansion so far. From what I could tell, they've done a really good job with some of the pictures and stuff I've seen. So if it's anything like, this here I'm showing now, this back attachments, they've been talking a lot about using the cloak slot for things that aren't actually cloaks. And my God, does this image look freaking amazing. It's like this giant runed halo that kind of hovers behind your head. Did you see that one?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I saw that, saw the wings. Oh, man, that's all just very, very cool. Absolutely
Yeah, that's
amazing.
really good. So then that was it. They ended that little section of the first panel, the first part of the panel, and we got on to the thing that I was probably the most excited about here in
Me too.
leveling
Yes.
issues. And they go through what they think current leveling issues are. Find the actual, there it is. So the 3 things that they think the problem with leveling is right now is that it takes too long, which we talked about this morning. I was
Yep.
surprised to hear they said it as well. Not every level is rewarding. Obviously, we knew they were going to tackle that. And then confusing timelines and stories. So again, I'm assuming you saw this, but the summary of it effectively is that they have some big freaking plans for leveling. And
Yeah.
you're the leveling guy. I'm a journeyman. Tell me what you think about all this.
I thought this was amazing. I thought they did a really, really good job. And one of the things that really stood out to me was, yes, okay, I may not 100% agree with them that leveling takes too long right now and that it needs to be sped up by 60 to 70%. But the idea of leveling through an expansion, a single expansion, is really, really good. Because, and I thought about this because we were talking about this in Discord. Well, how would you do that? You can't do 40, 50 levels in BFA. But you can, because it's not just the leveling content that you're going to be using to level anymore. You're going to be going through the story of the entire expansion as you level, from 10 to 50, which is absolutely insane. I thought, if I'm going to be an Alliance guy, maybe I want to spend my entire leveling story going through Warlords of Draenor, because that's so iconic for the Alliance. Maybe I want to go through all of Pandaria as a horde, because you got that whole thing with Garrosh. There's so much that you can do to experience it as your character, and I love the new starting zone.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. That was probably the biggest thing that they said about leveling that we didn't already. They confirmed that there's going to be a new starting zone. It's got like some very, typical fantasy story. It's a little bit disconnected from WoW, but it's connected in its own ways. And everybody who starts a brand new character has to start there. And you're going to play through that. Especially, it's going to be the introduction to World of Warcraft, which I really like. And then I guess somehow you're going to be able to either do that or the existing racial/class starting zones. So I don't really know how they might do that. What do you think they might do there?
Well, I think what's going to happen is, and they were showing the character creation screen. So once you've got everything else like you do now, start on your character. If this is your first character ever in World of Warcraft, you have to go to the new starting zone. But if not, you're going to get a choice on that. So say you're making a brand new DK, you're going to get a choice, and say it's Alliance, you're going to get a choice to start in Elwyn or Dunmorrow, DK starting area, or the new starting area. And from there you choose that. And like it's going to be just another customization option, just like eye color and hair color. What zone you want to start in.
Yeah, so you think it'll be on the actual character select screen or something?
Actually, as soon as you're done doing all the cosmetic stuff, you get to choose where you start because it's from level 1. So that's where you get to make that choice.
You couldn't travel the world. You'd have to actually be put there, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to do that. And then he said all the zones are still going to be there like they are now. So you could literally, level the way you are now, or you could choose a specific expansion that you want to go to once you get to level 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to realize that they're not deconstructing the world here. I think when they were talking about it and we didn't understand fully, it did sound like they might be, because it was like, well, you're going to pick Wrath. Does that mean you can't leave Wrath? But no, I mean, from what has been said, it seems like it's not that way, right? Like you can still do whatever you want, but if you want to pick Wrath, they're going to put you in Wrath, and you start like if it's brand new, like Wrath has started.
Exactly, and you're going to go through the whole thing. And I hope a good Wrath is a really good example, because I hope that brings back stuff like the Battle for Undercity, which is probably one of the most asked for things for them to bring back that they've taken out, because that was such an iconic scenario. It's the first scenario ever in World of Warcraft, and they took it out.
Right.
But people loved it because you got to go in there with Thrall, or you got to go in there with Varian and take Undercity back from Barry Mothras and Putris.
Yeah, now there's actually, I guess they don't have a picture of it here, but they basically also talked about Death Knights and Demon Hunters. Did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess they start at level 10 is what they said.
Oh, did they say that for level 10?
Or no, it was that. No, sorry, that was the allied races that are starting.
Allied races.
Yeah.
So allied races seem to start at level 10 and skip the intro for any of these early zones, presumably. Mm-hmm. And Death Knight and Demon Hunter, they just have their own starting zone. So they could, I guess, from what it sounded like, you could just not do that if you didn't want to. You could start as a Death Knight in Elwyn, or the actual new thing, or you could just do the normal one. So this is going to be probably pretty confusing, I think, because as a Death Knight might play the new one coming out. I guess apparently there's going to be a new starting zone as like a High Mountain Tauren Death Knight at one of the new races. And then there's the original one. I don't know if you're going to actually have the option to play either of those as well, or if you're forced to play the one that is corresponding to your selection. But then you might also just skip that. So this is going to be very interesting tech to see how they develop, because it really tells you that they are full on committed to making every single thing in the game scale and work for every single option out there.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing. And this is what we said with BFA and with 7.25. They are doing their gosh darn best to make leveling an integral part of the game, instead of just being something you have to get through to get to the game. Because that's how too many people see it right now. And I mean, that's how way too many people saw it back in 7.2.0. Just something you had to do to start the game.
That's a great point. In fact, that's why, so he said explicitly that... I don't remember the exact wording he used. It was kind of important wording, I feel like. But I think he said something like the game is going to play 60 to 70% faster for your average player. I think that's what he said. Do you remember maybe?
Yeah. He said the leveling will take 60 to 70% less time. It's 60 to 70% faster. So let's say that means it's going to take... that means instead of 60 hours, you're probably looking at 24 to 36 hours to get to max level.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely going to be 24 or less, right? Like for people who are doing it like for real. Like, so I that's actually pretty interesting, because it immediately makes me think about the challenges that I've done. And one of the big things that I always just kind of sucked about the challenges is that in order to finish them, I have to pretty much play this like 40 hours a week to get this done, because it's going to take like 7, maybe 8 days play time to get 1 to 120 on these challenges. So I don't want to level slow. As much as I say the pacing of the game is important, it's really about the pace. It's not about the time. So I'm, even if it only took 24 hours played, as long as that pacing is good, that's perfect. And I really like the fact that they said that about MOP, because I think that's a great example about MOP. In case anybody didn't hear that, what they said was that MOP is an expansion that almost nobody ever even comes close to finishing. There's 5 other zones besides the 1 or 2 that everybody does. I mean, I think you could testify. You pretty much only do Jade Forest, right?
No. I do Jade Forest. Only do Jade Forest because that's the fastest. Okay. If I had my druthers, I would do all 20 levels of that, or 10 levels of that leveling bracket in Pandaria, and get a lot further in, because I used to, before the level scaling, I used to go to Jade Forest. I used to do Valley of the Four Winds. I used to do the peaks there. I used to do a whole bunch of different zones. But I only do Jade Forest now because I out level it. You know,
Yeah.
but by the time I get to,
you go the whole bracket in 2 zones basically.
yeah, because I can get right now. I can get 7 to 8 levels in Jade Forest, and it's only a 10 level bracket for that expansion because Cataclysm and Pandaria are only 5 level brackets each.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is really nuts. I didn't even know about all that. So that's where it pretty much ended with leveling, like the general leveling stuff. So to wrap up, Allied Race is going to start at 10. They're going to skip the intro. They're going to be able to go right into anywhere in the world, basically, or the scaling, the whole like the chromie thing.
Mm-hmm.
From what I could tell, maybe this means like, you know, you can go anywhere you want, but you still have to follow certain stipulations. But if you wanted to start in Wrath, then you'd have to use Chromie to do it. You couldn't just go to Wrath at level 10. I don't know. Maybe that's not how it's going to work, but we'll find out. They didn't touch on anything about actual instanced content, really. Did you hear anything? I don't think so, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so you wonder how it works if you're level 10 and you picked Chromie to go to Wrath. Do you have access to the Wrath dungeons as well?
Actually, he said something about dungeons. He said something about having dungeons as you level. So I don't know that he wasn't very specific about it, but he said something about dungeons being part of the leveling process. So,
gotcha. Okay, so then I think the big thing that was posted was Brian Hilinka. The dude is back. I'm so happy to see him.
Me too.
He was a big part of the early, the middle part of Warlords of Draenor, and some people think he didn't do a good job, but I think he was a very admirable guy. I got to meet him personally, and he's passionate. Let's put it this way: he really cares about this video game, and I'm really glad to see him back on the project. But he had to say probably the most important thing to me, to hear about these class-defining mechanics returning, and the examples they gave were some great ones. Some great ones. What did you think about that? Let's hear it.
I was so happy. I get to play a rogue again because I'm going to have poisons. I get to play a shaman again because I'm going to have totems. I get to be a paladin again. I've got consecration. Oh my god. It's so amazing. Yeah. The only thing I didn't see that I know you were looking forward to is Gorfiends, but I'm hoping that's back for every spec as well.
Yeah, so let's see that slide actually. So they it's gone already. So they posted a bunch of things about different spells that would be returning. Let me see if I can find the slide now. Yeah. Okay, there it is. So Long Lost Friends. So on this list, it's Shattering Throw, which I'm kind of surprised to hear that's coming back. That was a very niche ability. I don't know what the purpose of it would be now. Kill Shot, which is obviously Hunter's Execute. Ritual of Doom. I mean, that's beyond niche. I don't know why that would be in the game again. Challenging Shout, which is an AoE taunt for warriors. That's actually important. That'd be really good to have for Orgoza. And then Eyes of the Beast, which is the famous example of the code that they accidentally overwrote when they were making MOP, and they couldn't possibly re-add it, if you remember that example.
I don't remember that example.
Yeah, this is actually something that they talked about when they first announced Classic, that a lot of the content in World of Warcraft has to get overwritten in order to make changes. And they somehow, I can't remember exactly what the scenario was, but basically that spell was effectively no longer ever going to be usable because something happened with the code. So the fact that that's on the list, I think a lot of people are probably surprised. But there's even more. They have Talent and Honor talents that were put into the Talent and Honor system, but now are returning for baseline stuff. So that makes me think what's going to replace those in the Talent and Honor talent system, meaning there's probably going to be a lot new Talent and Honor system, but they didn't even talk about that. Demonic Circle, which is obviously one that probably a lot of people remember very fondly. Summon Gargoyle, which if Blood DK has Summon Gargoyle, yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? I don't know about that one.
Absolutely. If my Frost DK can raise the dead and have a permanent pet, oh my god.
That's what I'm saying, dude. This is going to be a DK expansion. I'm ready to go. Hunter's Mark, which is a talent. It's actually a great talent. I love it as Hunter, and I'm glad to see it coming back properly. Hammer of Wrath for all 3 Paladin specs, having a new Execute. That's great. Yes. Cyclone, probably the biggest one, right? That one, the Druid famous Cyclone. Anti-Magic Zone, of course, another great DK one. So that's huge. Anti-Magic Zone, I mean, that was a really strong ability back in Wrath and stuff for DK. we'll see just how applicable it is. Some other ones, Death Coil. Now, is that the Warlock Death Coil? Or is that the Death Knight Death Coil?
I'm assuming it's the Death Knight Death Coil.
It's the animation of the Death Knight Death Coil, but the fact that they have Raised Dead and Death Coil on the same slide, it made me think that it wasn't. But yeah, Raised Dead. Now, is that the pet though, or is that me? No, because Battle Resing is already in the game, right?
Yeah.
It's already called Raised Dead. So they're gonna have to change that. I don't know what they would do.
Well, isn't it in the game called Raised Ally right now? Raised Dead is something different. Raised Dead is raising a pet.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. It uses the same icon, I'm pretty sure, so that's what confused me. But anyway, yeah, Consecrate for all Paladins, Frost Shock for all Shamans. That's really nice for Resto. I'd say that's probably the biggest buff out of there. Ursul's Vortex for all 4 specs. I mean, these are great changes. Shiv, De-Enrage for Rogues. I mean, these are nice. These are really nice, man.
Absolutely. I cannot believe it. I'm so happy.
Yeah. And they even talked about different weapons and like some of the base stuff, like say an elemental shaman or a resto shaman never really swings their weapon. They're going to give them back abilities like that, like a primal strike, I think it was what it's called. I think it is in the game now if you start a shaman, but I don't actually know how any of that works. But yeah, it's interesting, man, to have these like class defining abilities and almost like generalized spells. I think it's going to really make like class gameplay that much cooler, right?
Yeah, one of the things that I really dislike when I start a new character right now is I'm forced into a spec, and that's one of the things that they're rolling that back so that when you start at level 1, you are a class, not a spec. So when I start as a warrior, I'm just a warrior. I'm not an arms warrior, a fury warrior, a prot warrior.
And you have to start as what they tell you to, right? Like when you roll a shaman, you cannot change until level 10, right?
Exactly. You start as an elemental shaman when you start right now. I don't want to be an elemental shaman. I want to be an enhancement shaman. So yeah, it's huge. It is absolutely huge.
The thing that I think obviously the auras is cool. I would have preferred blessings. I'm not gonna lie about it. If blessings were on that list, I would have screamed. Auras are cool. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I don't really know how auras are gonna work because there's no way like Devo and they're gonna change a lot to do this. But either way, we'll see how it goes. But totems. This is the thing that got me extremely excited. Yes. Because when they mentioned Searing Totem, I'm like, dude, come on, that's the most important totem in the game. I'm so happy that the Searing Totem was just so important for so long, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's iconic. Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, I have to say that the class stuff was absolutely what I was most excited. The class and the leveling combined. Because don't forget, we're talking about max level, these additions being a big impact, but just having them for actually leveling, it's going to change the whole freaking game, man. I'm telling you, 1 to 60 now is going to be like an entirely different video game than 1 to 120 might be in Live WoW.
It's a paradigm shift now. It absolutely, we're changing the game again. They're going to be able to look back and say, where we said before, Classic is not the same game as BFA. Well, pretty soon we're going to be able to say Shadowlands is not the same game as BFA is not the same game as Classic.
Hey, you know what? I think you might be right, dude. Yeah, that game might be that different. It sounds like it might be. Like, it really, a lot of people were saying this on the forums and stuff. They say they're sounding like they're trying to make a second game. Like, this is the second version of WoW. Like, some of these changes are so big that it's almost like if they're remaking the entire game for some of these.
It is, because that's how big the leveling changes are. That's how big the class changes are. All of this is it's a brand new game come Shadowlands. Frog just said in my chat here, spiritual WoW 2, which is something you and I talked about here a few days ago.
For real, basically, yeah. That is kind of funny. Anyway, so then the last thing they talked about was something that I didn't expect to be that I'm excited about it, but the tower thing is really, really, really cool. And they talked about how it's going to be a repeatable challenge no matter how many people you have. They even said, you don't really need a tank or a healer. So I wonder how it's going to be if I solo it as a tank. We'll see. But, so we did talk about this yesterday as well, and they did confirm that these power-ups are going to be specific to this thing. And not only are they specific to this, but they're going to be very, like, regular. Like, you're going to get a lot of them. He even talked about potentially having, like, 8 of some of them. Let me see if I can find the slide. But, yeah, that dog example, what'd you think of that, man?
Oh, that was insane. Dude, we are going to do this tower so much. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. For real. So there it is, bloating fodder. You cause Maw Rats to explode on death, dealing blood damage. So he said you can get it 8 times 80k damage, and then one of the abilities makes it so when you use the ability, it automatically kills any rats. This kind of like hyper specific customization is so freaking good. And I always thought like kind of like Diablo and other games like that kind of dabbled well in it. And I always thought, you know what, that should just be in WoW. Like it's that interesting. You know what I mean? To have this very specific customization that could help you tackle a hard challenge. And I think the thing I might like the most about this is that you can just kind of take your time with it. I wasn't really sure what the strategy elements were going to be here, but it sounds like it's going to actually, each floor is going to be really large, and maybe like kind of like maybe like the equivalent of, say, a trash before a boss. You know, there might be like maybe 20 different packs that you could pull on your way to the exit. You might only pull 10 of them, but you know, you might want to pull some that you don't normally think about pulling because they might have objects or whatever the power-ups are going to be that you might want to get.
Yeah. And that's just it. Like, and I really love that ability that lets you see whether a group of mobs has anima to it, because you know maybe you might go through 3 packs and none of them happen to have anima. And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, some of that stuff. I was surprised at how specific they were willing to show, because usually when they talk about this stuff, they're in the very early planning stages. Like they will not show absolutely like super specific stuff, but this is like, while under the effects of soul shape, you instantly kill Maw Rats that you pass through. That is as specific as it's gonna ever get in this game. You know what I mean? I was really shocked that they showed all that. So so in the end, I think this panel was it was crazy. They specified a couple things. What do you think, like the big takeaway?
Oh, the big takeaway, and we just said it, the entire game is changing. It might as well call it WoW 2.0, because there's so much there that they're doing to make the game not only, and I said this yesterday, they have to do this to keep the game fresh for new people. They have to do things to make it so that people just coming on to World of Warcraft aren't going, well, I have to get 130 levels before I can play with Metro and Kop. You know, it's so good. The leveling, the scaling, the new systems. I can't pick one. It's all amazing. I love it.
I agree entirely. I'm telling you. And then they also talked about this Maw zone where like the danger gets harder the longer you're in it and stuff. Like this is revolutionary stuff, man. These are huge additions. Like I cannot wait to see how they.
Absolutely. It's something that I watched some of the Overwatch 2 panel, and it kind of struck me as being kind of universal for Blizzard. They talk about changing the way people look at video games, because they talked about changing what a sequel was. And to me, that's the same type of thing that they're doing here with World of Warcraft. They're changing the game. You know, everybody else is kind of like, oh, well, let's do this little one thing, you know, and let's do this little other thing to compete with. Now, World of Warcraft's going, yeah, that's kind of cute and all. You want to change 1 or 2 things and compete with us. We're going to change everything. Have fun.
It really does.
Now.
Yeah. It's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, I don't think there's I can't think of another game that's really done something like this, honestly. Maybe there's some out there, but like, yeah, this is really changing the start to finish of World of Warcraft. So I'm pretty excited. Obviously, lots of people have been chatting. Do you have any questions or anything from your chat that you want
to? Just scroll back a little bit. Yeah, some people are talking about leveling being a chore. Yeah, taking out the trash is a bigger achievement than getting into 120. I don't know that I agree with that, but yeah, not a heck of a lot. Go hit yours.
All right. So, hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by again. Unfortunately, I do have to go shortly because I'm going to the wedding. Mm-hmm. So I have about 15 minutes, but we'll read. Jick's glad to see you here, man. He brings up that Summon Gargoyle is currently an Unholy only as a CD, and that Raise Dead is the ability that summons the pet. So, yeah, that was my fault there. That's a different ability, I guess. So, yeah, if that means that all Death Knight specs are going to get both a DPS CD and the ability to have a pet all the time, pretty cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait. I'm going to have to start playing my DK as my 1. Like, my Monk's going to be my 1, and my DK is going to be 1A.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's good to have a main alt, right? I always feel like that. He also says that he noticed that there wasn't any Demon Hunter changes. And that's a good point, actually, because Demon Hunter is the most recent class, and I don't know what they could add. Like they're talking about unpruning things, what they removed. I don't think they really removed anything from Demon
Nothing.
Hunters in the last 2.
No.
So the only thing I could think of is they might give more spells, like maybe like more spells between the 2 specs.
Yeah, they might get everything from both specs for both specs just to fill it out. But one of the things that I saw is it's not that they're necessarily getting a new spell every level either, though. Like sometimes they're just going to be improving spells. So there's a lot of wiggle room there where they can say, okay, demon spikes do XYZ extra, or yeah, I beam does ABC extra damage or what have you.
That's true. Yeah, I think they might. DM in the chat just said they could add the artifact abilities back in, and that's actually probably the best example, right? Because
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
something that Demon Hunter. A lot of people think like Demon Hunter was based on the artifact, and when they removed them, they ripped out a lot of the flavor, right? So
Definitely, for sure.
okay, so let's see some others. They're finally giving my Arcane Mage a fire spell. So that was probably one of the things that I think a lot of mages really didn't like recently. Was that like if you're a frost mage, you literally don't even have fire spells? How do you feel about that whole?
It makes so much more sense because you're a mage. You're a mage. That's the whole fantasy of being a spec. Is that okay? I'm a mage, so I know how to cast a bloody fireball. I casted it for the first 10 levels. All of a sudden,
That's true
I get
too.
to level
You
10.
lose,
I don't know how to
yeah,
cast a
you lose
fireball.
spells, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's about specializing in frost instead of losing the fire, and that is really kind of takes us back to the type of spell books that we had in the vanilla, the Burning Crusade, the Wrath.
I'll tell you right now, if they ever add Frostfire Bolt, I think that was probably my favorite
Yes.
ability that was ever removed from the game, honestly.
Yes, absolutely.
Really cool looking, very unique spell. I always liked the way it looked as well. So maybe they'll add that back somehow. Okay, so let's see some of the other comments. Hey, Randall, what's up? The Tombstone Cloak. So I don't know if you just, I put it up on my screen for a while. You probably can't see it, obviously. But if you go to MMO Champion, they have a kind of like an art piece for all the Kyrian back attachments or like just Covenant back attachments in general.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is a freaking like tombstone with candles and chains around it. It's absolutely insane looking. And presumably these will be the 4 options from the 4 zones. So the Kyrian one is there with the wings, but then the Scourge one looks like it's probably the bone, like it's like bone wings almost, like bones coming out of your back. And then there's these like Fey Dragon looking wings. And then of course the one for the vampire area is this crazy gothic tombstone that you're going to attach to your back, which is pretty bizarre, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see what else we see here. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything they want to bring up, now would be the time while I'm reading the chat.
Absolutely.
But let's see. So we're talking about DKs having a unique starting zone. So we still don't exactly know, but the changes to Death Knight stuff is coming in 8.3. So we're gonna know that's coming up. Like probably next week on the PTR, they're gonna push forward the data for that because they were probably just holding it back. They probably have it there the whole time. They've just been holding it back. Would you think?
Absolutely. That's why I mean, like the 8.3 cinematics are still encrypted in that because they've been holding that back so that they could make the announcements, so they didn't leak stuff that was going to ruin their announcements that we're making today and yesterday.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Absent says, guess it's settled which one I'm picking now then based on these wings. And Insomniac says, are those skeletal wings only for Death Knights or for Warriors too? No, these are based on the covenant that you choose. So the 4 options here are presumably for the 4 different covenants. Has nothing to do with your class. And they did also confirm that covenant is not going to impact the gameplay. Like you don't like, I cannot only play with people from my covenant, nothing like that. So that was pretty, I guess, obvious, but I'm glad that they said it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you don't have to be in the same covenant for Metro and Kop to go and do the Tower of Torghast together.
Yeah, for sure. So Ahmad says, do you think tanks will have magic mitigation, magical damage mitigation back? So if they're talking about unpruning things, I think we're talking about a lot more general spells, but I definitely wouldn't. I don't know. It depends on how they want to approach it, like healer and tank metas. But what do you think? Maybe you have some thoughts.
I think it's more about making you feel like you're that class rather than that spec. Like it's more like when I'm a monk, I'm a windwalker. I don't feel like I'm just a windwalker. I feel like I'm a monk who's specialized in being a windwalker. So I should still have access to some of those things that a tank would have, like my healing elixir, or fortifying brew, because those are things that are endemic to being a monk. And maybe the ones that if I was a brewmaster, those would be way more effective. But I should still have access to them.
It's interesting that you bring those things up, especially because they even said that all warriors are going to have shield blocks. So I guess if you put a shield on, you're going to actually be able to like tank it. Like that's the thing that's probably the most unique from Classic to BFA, is that like being a Fury Warrior does not mean you can't tank. In fact, as many people saw, Fury Warrior is the preferred way to tank now. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Absolutely.
Insomniac asks, can you choose the Covenant on pre-purchase? No, you have to play the game to do that. It's gameplay.
Yeah, as you level through Shadowlands, you will experience all 4 Covenants. And you'll get a feel for what each of their abilities do. And once you get to max level, you get to 60, that's when you choose. Is when you're done the story at level 60. That's when you choose your Covenant.
Frog says he's happy that they decided to add a lot more back designs and not just cloak after cloak, which I obviously agree. I mean, most cloaks, people are just hiding cloaks like all the time now, right?
Honestly, I like cloaks. I've always kind of liked the idea of the cloak, but I'm strange, I guess. Hexarine here says, so if they're unpruning, did they mention seals for paladins? They missed their seal dancing. No, but we're getting auras for paladins, definitely. But they didn't say anything about seals yet.
Yeah, they didn't mention it specifically, but you never know, right? I mean, it's probably not the end of the topic, and I don't, seals are not, like, I wouldn't care for that, but I do think buffs like blessings, like Red already has blessings, so I think every paladin spec should just get those, right? Like,
absolutely,
there's no reason that they can't. I think
and they're so little of an impact. You know what I mean? Like, it's an absorb shield and a mana regen, so it's not like what used to be where you get 10% of every 10% of every stat or whatever it used to be for kings.
Right, yeah, it's more specific. Yeah. Jambo says max level 60 is going to take some time to get used to. I wonder if they're going to do a pre-patch similar to Legion where the levels will be squished. Yeah, they do that every expansion. There's always the pre-patch, quote unquote, is just the patch that deploys the expansion, but then the actual end game content of the expansion doesn't come out for it's usually 6 to 8 weeks. I think we've seen as early as 4 weeks from up to WAD and as late as 8 weeks. I think actually from Legion to BFA was 8 weeks, or no, from the WAD to Legion was 8 weeks. But yeah, it's usually about 6 weeks total, I think.
Yeah, so that's about right. And it'll be 9.0 when that happens.
Mod says, so I think tanks will get less, but DPS specs will be able to tank, so no use of rolling a tank anymore. No, that's obviously, you're confused. Anyway, the level squish will happen when the pre-patch hits. Yeah, so that level squish thing, that's what I'm saying. So, like, somebody was asking about heirlooms. So how do you think heirlooms factor into this now?
I think heirlooms are going to become uncomplicated. Right now, heirlooms have anywhere from 2 to 4 levels to them, and you have to buy the levels so you can level up your heirlooms so they can go from 60 or 90 to 120 or even 100 to 120. All of that's getting taken away. An heirloom is just going to be an heirloom. It'll go from 1 to 50, and then eventually once we get far enough into Shadowlands, it'll go from 1 to 60. I think they're going to take away all of that ambiguity of whether you can use it or not and just make heirlooms heirlooms again.
Yeah, in fact, so the question was, should they upgrade their heirlooms now or just wait for some inevitable changes to them? What would you say?
I would say wait. Unless you're using them now, wait, because I think you're not going to need to upgrade heirlooms. I guess the TLDR of what I'm trying to say is you're not going to need to upgrade your heirlooms because they're all just going to be from 1 to 50.
Yeah, that's probably it. And no, Jambo, we're just speculating. They haven't discussed heirlooms specifically up to this point, so we.
But I mean, because they either have to completely remove heirlooms or they have to just make them so they just work. Because I mean, what are you going to do? Have an heirloom work from 1 to 25 and then have to upgrade it to 1 to 30 and then 1 to 50 and then you know what I mean?
Especially if you're meant to do like 10 to 50 in one expansion, I don't think that would be retarded, right? Like they're not going to make you stop in the middle of the expansion and upgrade your heirlooms again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or stop in the middle of the expansion and stop using your heirlooms. You know, so I mean, they're just going to have to work.
That's probably true. That's they're probably going to get rid of that. You're probably right about that. Alex says he wishes the Squitch would have come in 8-3 for leveling his Volparian, and that makes me think, what's going to happen with Heritage Armor? They didn't mention it. What do you
I think what they're going to eventually do is, because right now the Heritage Armor is 2 levels, right? Like if you're one of the allied races, you get it at 110, and if you're at one of the core races, you get it at 120. I think what they're eventually going to do is just make all Heritage Armor at level 50, so that, you know, like if you're doing one of the core races, there's actually a quest line to do to get the Heritage Armor, and it's somewhat difficult if you're not geared, but so why not just make everybody get their Heritage Armor at level 50 and then move on to Shadowlands?
Yeah, I think that's probably how it'll be. Everything will be at 50 now. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, 50 is just the catch-all now. Like every new expansion that comes out, the previous one gets slid into the 50 bracket as well. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, so I got to get going. We're going to read a few more questions and then we got to dip, all right? I forgot, is it speculation that we can level in any zone from 1 to 60? It's 1 to 50, it's 10 to 50. I would definitely recommend checking out the panel. Don't have time to summarize it all, but at 10 to 50, you get to choose basically an era of the game that you want to play through by Chromie, or you can just go about the world as it is now. So, what else? Can you make allied DKs now after pre-purchasing Shadowlands? When 8.3 comes out, you can, which it's not out, but it should be. I'm assuming like the next 2 months. What's no new class makes me sad. Yeah, not for me. The complete opposite. No new class is probably my favorite announcement. To be honest, like the fact that they're actually spending time on the old classes, like we've seen today, especially making you know, all these big changes to classes, is way preferable than adding a whole new class and potentially compromising that. So,
Agree.
it looks like everything. I agree with Kop. That sounds likely about the heirlooms from Alex. So yeah. It's so freaking great. That's exactly what I was wishing they would do. Pick an expansion to do for leveling is so great. Yeah, it'd be really great just to actually go through the entire expansion to level. I could see myself leveling a lot of characters, and I think I'm going to turn into you. I'm not going to have enough slots. We're going to have to figure something out here, man. Especially if it's quicker and I could actually level them, I'm definitely going to do it, right? So it's going to be pretty nuts.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for stopping by. Sadly, I'm still roped into going to this wedding, so I'm going now. I won't be back anytime tonight. I'm gonna miss the big UFC fight tonight as well, so I'm unfortunate. Pretty upset about that. But anyway, thanks for stopping. If you guys have any questions after this, I made this mostly as a VOD. The stream was nice, but the VOD is why hopefully it'll be there for a while. You could ask any questions. I'll answer them, you know, on my phone or tonight or tomorrow or something like that. And then stay tuned for Tuesday. We're gonna be doing the what's it called? The
AV thing, yeah.
There you go, yeah. The new Alteric Valley and potentially the raid as well. So we'll figure that out on Tuesday. The 15th anniversary is apparently starting on Tuesday, and that'll be that. And maybe, I don't know, what are you doing tomorrow? Are you going to do some leveling tomorrow, maybe?
I'm going to do some leveling tomorrow. I'm probably going to do some leveling right now, so I'm going to keep streaming after we're done and just pick a random leveling character, and then I can BS with my stream about stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, sounds good. If you guys want to continue the conversation, hop on over to Kop's channel. But I was thinking, do you want to get together for the leveling stuff?
Absolutely. If you're around, I'm totally down for that.
Sweet. I'll check in with you tomorrow. I'm not sure what tonight's gonna look like, but yeah, if we have time tomorrow, we'll get together for sure.
All right, buddy. We'll have fun at the wedding, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks a lot. See you guys in the next one.
Peace. All right. So, Baron, I'm going to do some solo leveling. I'm just going to find a tune to do it with here first. So I finished the call with Metro. I'm going to go and change the title of my stream once I figure out who I want to level. I don't know who I want to level. Yeah, Frog, if Shadowlands is WoW 2, Metro will become Kop 2. Oh, I'm so ready, Baron. Metro and I, if you go and watch the earlier part of this.
Protecting Zuldazar is our top priority.
Yeah. High Lord alert. Let's go find an alt. Grab an alt and level him. Yeah, let's grab an ally alt. Let's grab an ally alt over here on Parent Old. I know, Frog. Absolutely, right? Awesome, Baron. Well, if you watched the earlier part, me and Metro went through it, and yesterday we spent like 3 hours talking about the new stuff. I don't know what I want to level. I don't know what I want to level. Actually, you know, I'm talking about, yes, actually, you know what? We were talking about allied races. Just grab my cult here. Fun with Flags, Siblanus has never been a villain. She never will be. My war chief now and forever. Dark Lady, watch over you. Okay. Hi, Insomniac. Let's see, all changes saved. Okay, let's do... Every darn time I write that word, I accidentally capitalize both letters, the first and second letter. Okay. Okay. So let's do that. Bartender. I haven't been on this. Oops. I haven't been on this tune in a long time. Anyway, I knew you were gonna like the Fae one there, Frog. I just knew it. Let's see, where do I need to be? Well, I don't feel like being in Bashalaran. I feel like go to Stone Talon. And okay. There we go. Nice. This is my Kaltiran warrior. Prot. Actually, where's my hearth set? Yeah, Harbor Master's office. That's just going to take me back to Stormwind, so... I said that, Frog. I said what she did was exactly what Illidan did. Oh, she's not a betrayer, Insomniac. Yep, sounds right, Frog, for sure. So, You know, I may have to prune some of my character list. Yeah, Fae. Not the Fae for me. Although maybe on my hunters I'll have the Fae.
Welcome. Safe travels.
Light be with you. Be careful.
Yes, absolutely Insomniac. It's entirely customizable from what I've seen. Yes. Well, there's no DK set Insomniac. There's they're doing it once again by armor class. So the example they showed was plate armor, and there's 4 different plate armors one for each covenant. No, High Lord, I'm not going to be doing any dungeons, so. Yeah. For sure. It's going to be amazing. I cannot believe it. I'm just so happy with everything they did. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I think I'll spend like 2 hours doing a little bit of leveling here. We can talk about anything you guys like as far as the BFA. So any questions, hit me up. I know typically when I'm dual streaming with Metro, I find it really hard to answer your questions because, and this is unfortunate, but his stream generally has 10 times the viewers that mine does. So it's really hard to get a word in when we're trying to answer questions from everybody. So I apologize for that, but that's kind of one of the reasons why I really, really wanted to go and continue to stream for a couple more hours so that we could talk, you guys and me, we could talk about the expansion, because I am so ready. I will buy the pre-purchase Insomniac. That's if you look up here, you see this little bar here? That's me saving up for the pre-purchase with tip money. So this is our stream boss right now. It's Theo is our stream boss. And every time you do a tip or you do damage to Theo, and you can take him out and become the new stream boss while you're contributing towards my purchase of the Shadowlands with your tips. Frog, you're right. You and I are destined to be on opposite sides of things. Because I think my least favorite one is probably the Fae, not because I think they're horrible Covenant, but because their aesthetic is probably my least favorite. You keep coming back because we love you, brother. We love having you here. I'm glad you do, brother. I'm glad you do. I know, originally I wasn't thinking I would like the vampires at all. But the more I see of it, the more I'm really liking the vampires. I kind of would like to have a DK that's a bit closer to a Sand Lane. Oh, grats, Insomniac. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have to have like 2 mains on each, 2 Horde mains and 2 Alliance mains, one that's each Covenant. Because each Covenant is gonna have its own endgame story. So... yeah. Walk with the Earth Mother.
Time is money, friend.
I don't know. You know, I really like the Kieran. Aesthetically, I kind of like for my one of my Death Knights. I think it for sure is going to be the Scourge Covenant, and one of my Death Knights is probably going to be the Vampire Covenant. I'll probably stick. Oh dear God. No! I just realized something. If I stick my DK to either the Scourge or the Vampire, and I stick my Paladin with the Kieran, that means, and another DK with the other part of the Scourge of the Vampire, that means, oh no, it means I have to go to the Fae? Oh man. No, not the Fae. No. I never farmed spare parts, Insomniac. I just got them by doing stuff while I was getting up my my reputation. There are 4 different, essentially there are 4 different factions, Insomniac. If you remember back in Burning Crusade, there was the Aldor and the Scryers. It's a very similar thing, only there's 4 of them. And they're not at war, they're just, they represent very different things. Yes, very much so. That's the way I saw it too, Frog. Is Aldor and Scryer on kind of on steroids, and split into 4 instead of just 2. They represent the different aspects of death because, well, like they said yesterday, the realm of the Shadowlands is not all doom and gloom. Because, you know, it encompasses all of the places you go as some after you've died, right? I don't think there's going to be an ex-Lich King fun with flags. That's the whole point of Sylvanas ripping that helmet in half. There no longer needs to be a Lich King. Absolutely, Frog. And it looks like they're going to be very well balanced and have different, you know, different uses for the different things that you get from it. Okay, where am I going? Looks like I go follow from the thing out of town. I take a right up the road from out of town, and I'll hit down here to the ruins of Stardust. Yes. Absolutely, Frog. One of the things that I'm both most excited about and most apprehensive about that they did not talk about was Arthas Menethil. Yes. Okay, Fun with Flags, that was something I didn't get a chance to talk to Metro about. One of the things that they said specifically and explicitly was that farming old raids and stuff is not going to be affected by the level squish. You're still going to be able to go in and farm any content that you can currently do. You're still going to be able to do with no changes. It's not going to affect anything that way. So we're still going to be able to do mount farming streams if we want to. Well, once you get to max level in Shadowlands, you'll be level 60.
What brings you here? Good luck, friend.
No, Insomniac, no. There's just no way. Like, right now, I can't solo Mythic Gul'dan. I can't get to Mythic Gul'dan, and that's a mid-expansion raid, kind of like the Eternal Palace is. So no, I mean, you won't be able to solo Mythic Azshara at the start of the expansion. Yeah, Ryan, I'm old. So I need some help from time to time. I doubt, even with that, I think you're gonna be looking. You're gonna need to get raid gear for that first. I think is what you're looking at. Oh yeah, there's an add-on called Leatrix Plus that I use for that. It's an add-on, a suite of add-ons that actually does a lot of things for you. Well, similar to what they did when they squished the stats frog, only probably way more effective. In so much that they're going to keep the boss health and stuff like that at the same, and just buff our, when we're inside that raid, they're going to buff our ability to be in there. Yeah. I don't know that you could do Antorus Mythic right now with 5 people. You'd have to be really good. But yeah, I think they recognize that that's a gameplay that people truly enjoy doing and do quite a bit. So I don't think they're going to make that difficult for us. Oh, yes, Frog, for sure, for sure. Yeah, well, you know, we have destroyed many Murlocs over the years, so yeah, there'll be quite a few there for sure. Yeah. I think the beginning of BFA wasn't as bad as you know, maybe people make it out to be, but I would definitely say that the writing has been definitely upped. Wow, Shield Slam hits hard. Like, really hard. Like, unnecessarily hard. Ah, it must have been a crit. Yeah, outside of Christy Golden, it probably was a new writing team. A lot of the team was probably pretty new. I legit thought it was going to be harder than this. I didn't realize Prot Paladins hit this hard. It would take longer to kill mobs than this. Do I have... I don't have the water walking thing yet. I thought she was in Legion, but I could be wrong because I know Richard Knack did the pre-Legion book, so maybe yeah, you could be correct. That could be right. I like I said, that sounds... The more I think about it, the more that sounds right, Frog.
Many deals for a friend of the Grummles. Like you. Many farewells.
There you go. Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, no, I think that's definitely an improvement on. She's always going to be an improvement on the on any of the writing teams. So, like I said, I love her novels. They're always really good. Yeah, and she even talked about that in the Voices of Azeroth panel. It was nice of this goblin technician to come to me. I would have come to you, goblin technician. But yeah, no, again, I think you're correct in that the writing's gotten better. Again, not that the writing was ever bad, it's just that maybe it's taken a step to a place that's gonna take us into the next iteration of WoW. Like I was talking with Metro there, it's gonna be a whole new game. I know there's some of you watching that maybe have not seen me play before. Maybe you come over from Metro stream and you're like, hey, he's using those abilities wrong. There's something you should know. I am quite literally the most casual player on the face of the planet. So I'm gonna hit the wrong button from time to time. Especially as I had no plan to be leveling this toon right now, so I have, and it's been months since I've leveled a warrior. Yeah, and I mean, the thing of it is, they are. They're kind of writing 2 and 3 expansions ahead. You know, when they plan out the story that they're going to do, they're thinking, as I say, 2 to 3 expansions past where they're at right now of the stories they want to tell and building towards that story. I mean, think of it. Legion built into Battle for Azeroth, which is building into Shadowlands. Yep. This is clearly the biggest explosive you've ever laid eyes upon. What in the world could the goblins be thinking about with building such a monstrosity? Try, the thing looks like it's almost complete. The goblins appear to have built it well. Looks as if it's impervious to any damage you could do to it. It's certainly too big for you to carry out of here. You better report the bomb to Huntress Jalen at Stardust Spire to the southwest. I love leveling. I really do. I'm so glad that they're making it a priority again. Making leveling... It sounds so cheap to say it, but they're making leveling great again. No, my name is Donald Trump, and I am here to say we need to make leveling great again. Because I am the greatest World of Warcraft player, and anybody who says anything to the contrary is indulging in fake news. Fake news! Yeah, well, and more than half the game, too, Frog. You have to remember. There's, what, we have 7 expansions now? It's literally, 120 levels worth of leveling, and, 1 expansion worth of endgame content, so... Yeah, I get that. For sure I do. I have to actually read this quest. Boog the Gear Whisperer and Minx from Banemaster Thundrak's Wagon of Unending Agony. Okay, that wagon is what I was looking to get to. Yeah, Ren. I can't believe the amount of damage that they do. It's actually quite impressive, to be honest. Oh, there's that too, right? Charge is just so good. I don't even have Heroic Leap yet, and it's good. That's another thing. A lot of these specs, the way they're built right now, it feels like you're losing power as you get higher in level because things become more difficult when it really should feel a lot smoother. Like the mob should get more difficult, but you should have more tools to deal with it. I don't think that's necessarily the case at the moment. And it looks like that's one of the things they're going to be doing a lot to combat. It's like one of the alts that I'm leveling right now is a Resto Shaman. And my Resto Shaman feels more powerful. It does more damage to mobs than my Enhancement Shaman does. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't be, you know, of the same level bracket. I mean, we've kind of swung the pendulum back the other way, because there was a time where you could legit not level as a healing spec. And right now, healing specs are very powerful in leveling.
Hello. Goddess watch over you.
Hey. Right.
I am honored.
They took our gnomes. They took our gnomes.
Be careful. Ishnu Allah. Farewell.
Yeah, that's a breadcrumb to go to Stranglethorn Vale. I don't know why we get that breadcrumb there. It's a bit odd.
Tall one.
I love this quest.
So these night elves sent out a desperate call for us to help. It was something like this.
Nombus changes the pitch of his voice to sound like,
Please come and help us. The big mean horde has goblins. Oh, we can't handle goblins. They pull our hair and make us cry. Right, well, anyway, so here we are. First thing I did was upgrade their aerial defenses with some of my new sniper guns. Problem is, they don't use guns. Do yourself a favor and lend them a hand, eh? Find them south of here.
Off and away.
oh, for sure. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's a, it's, you know, it defies logic that healers would be like that. I think healers should be viable to level with, but I don't think healers should be able to do way more damage than DPS.
Greetings.
We use guns just fine, friend. Cannons, on the other hand, I take issue with.
Farewell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Your damage got nerfed by 50%. Yeah, sounds about right, honestly. Like I say, I have no problem with them being viable to level with. I just don't think they should be better at doing damage. Like, their viability from leveling should come from survivability, right?
assist you? Asha fella.
I have many lucky doos. You like? Good fortune to our friends.
Hello.
Oh, I miss leveling in Pandaria. Krongar incinerators. Slay 10
They're
Krongar
loud.
incinerators.
Interesting.
The gnome quarter is complete. Now we must test it. Venture into Stone Talon Mountains to the southeast and walk down the Talon Deep Pass until you reach a Vilsey Goblin drill machine. To activate the gnome quarter when you reach your destination.
Be seeing
Okay.
you.
I'm telling you guys. I am telling you guys, BlizzCon, absolutely amazing this year. So what I think... I know, Frog, I'm so hyped. There's stuff even that I was unsure about when hearing the overview. Like, when hearing the one line that talked about the level squish, I was like, no, that's horrible. How could they do that? But upon hearing how they were going to do it, I was like, yes, that's amazing. I just realized something, guys. The Q&A is coming up in like half an hour. So what I think we're going to do is I'm going to keep leveling here for another 15 minutes. If you guys have any questions at all, anything you want to talk about, let me know. I'm going to... at about 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to watch the Q&A, and then I might come back. I might come back if there's anything of significance that I want to talk about with you guys. We can do that. Then... But Frog, I thought you wanted Anduin to get together with Raytheon. I don't know. I think what's going to happen is Flynn will be the guy that is there for Talia when she has her first meeting with her father. He's going to be the one that picks up the pieces when she's completely inconsolable with her father. And that's when she is going to realize just how much she loves him. And that's going to be their romantic arc. I don't think that Talia is going to be Anduin's queen. Much as that seems like what they're going for. Yeah. That's kind of my point, too. I don't see that kind of chemistry between Talia and Anduin. I see it between Talia and Flynn. If anything, I could see Anduin moving in on Midna my territory and getting together with alternate Draenor's Ural. Where the end of the story is they redeem each other. Because Anduin starts to go down a path that's, you know, not necessarily the most light-centric. And he brings her back from her light, quote-unquote, Nazism that she's been mind-controlled into. And she brings him back from the shadow that's looking to consume him. I hope so. We really need to see the end of her story because we saw far too little of it, in my opinion. Oh, I was supposed to be doing this the whole time. Ah. Yep, that's my idea as well, Frog. Yeah, I don't think that would go over very well if he was romantically involved with Fiona. Although even being romantically involved with Ural isn't going to go over very well. What I was kind of thinking they might do is, and this goes back to the way that we got the Maghar orcs on the Horde. They used a shard of the whatchamacallit, the Hourglass of Eternity to get to alternate Draenor, right? Wasn't the whole thing. So what if they used... the Alliance used a different shard to get to alternate Draenor. But when they got to alternate Draenor, it was earlier in the timeline before Yril became a light Nazi. And they were able to pull the light-bound Draenei off of alternate Draenor. Before that whole, you know, either join the light or we'll exterminate you kind of thing goes on. So that the Yril that we get is a Yril before she went on that kind of crusade. Whereas the Mag'har that are on the Horde are ones that are like, oh, that's horrible. We hate you. You tried to exterminate us. That's a tough one, fun with flags. Again, I'm not the most technically adept person on the face of the planet, so I can't say, you know, do X, Y, Z, you know, or ABC amounts of money is good, but one thing I would say is that I've noticed on my own that makes a huge difference is having a solid state hard drive to have the game on is making a huge difference. And
Hi, how are you? Alrighty then.
you know, you want to make sure you're not skimping on anything that's going to affect the performance of the game. So you want to have a really decent video card, you want to have enough memory, you want to have a good CPU.
Honored, I'm sure. Very well then.
Really? Kromgar Peon? Okay. You want to have that SSD drive for really quick load times, because when you reduce the load times, you're taking a lot of the quote-unquote load away from your a part of your machine so that the other parts can work more effectively, right? Well, yeah. Don't forget to unlock the Zandalari Heritage Armor first. Because you know you can't unlock Heritage Armor on a DK, so... Well then, maybe what you do, Inferno, is you wait until Shadowlands is out, and you level another Zandalari on it. Get it to level 50, get your Heritage Armor. That way. Yes, yeah. S4 boy, if you're starting a DK or a Demon Hunter at level 1, then you will get your Heritage Armor from it. But what Inferno Master is talking about is in 8.3, turning his current existing Death Knight into a Zandalari. Or starting a new one, right? Which would start at level 55. Oh, Inferno Master. I said that yesterday and I meant it. I need air to breathe. I need Bolvar's mace for my Death Knight. I love that mace. I was like, yes! That is awesome. Well, you won't get that. I can't see that being available right away, but... You know, generally speaking, I don't like maces. I prefer swords to maces, but that mace was epic. To me, that was like Blackhand's mace, but way cooler. And I mean, I love Blackhand's mace. Yes. Now the whole thing with the different eye color makes so much more sense. See, stuff like that is why leaks just aren't good in my opinion. They don't make sense. Yeah, in fact, I am going to Hearth right now because I don't want to miss any of it, and it starts in 15 minutes. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to end the stream here. And I'm going to go watch the Q&A, and if there's enough interesting stuff, I may come back and stream again today and do another one of these. Or I may just wait until tomorrow when me and Metro are going to do some Dark Iron leveling, hopefully, and we'll talk about it then. So, alright everybody, thanks for dropping by for the deep dive answer with me and Metro and a little bit of leveling where we talked. I hope to see you all either later today or tomorrow for some Dark Iron Dwarf leveling with our Dark Iron Challenge. So, take care. Have a great rest of BlizzCon. Peace. Kop out.